Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. We have a German television correspondent, Kerstin Klein, with me today. Hello, Kerstin. Great to see
Hi,
you.
thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. Kerstin represents something we do frequently at the museum is have foreign correspondents here.
Mhm.
Uh, and so she's here. I'm going to ask her why she's here, talk a little bit about her career. She was here with a photographer, Tom. ARD is your uh, German company, but you're based out of Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
And just throw a picture up there. I arranged this a couple weeks ago. We arranged this, or
Yeah,
kind of
last
short
week, two
order
weeks.
here.
Yep.
And that's Tom, her videographer, and they wanted to talk to some real authentic American treasures, we call them here, Space Coast treasures. And so we hooked you up with Gary Allgaier there, and of course Marty Winkle, who's running the board. Marty and I are approaching 5 years of bringing Stay Curious to you wonderful people out there. Let me push my little electronic device and say hello to a couple of them there. Kerstin, we got Dave Stangy says hello to our new guest on the show. Marty, remind me that she signs our guest book or our guest thing here too, if I forget. So, Kristen, I set you up there. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing here on the Space Coast this weekend.
Yeah, we are actually here because there is a media tour for Artemis 2 tomorrow. So we're gonna go there and actually see the SLS and the Orion capsule, and that's why we come down here in the first place. But there's also the Apollo 13 anniversary coming up in April, the 55th anniversary of Apollo 13. So we're
Yes.
going to do a story on that. And I thought, while we are here and we have already talked to Gary and Marty for another occasion, I thought, why not reach out to you again and see if you find someone who worked on the Apollo program, and you found us, Gary and Marty, again. So we talked to them about their part in Apollo 13 and how they experienced those very exciting, maybe too exciting days
Oh, Gary,
55
yeah,
years
both
back.
of them full of information. In fact, Gary's going to do a special Apollo 13 program with
Mhm.
us. Gary Allgaier, you all know him, one of our favorites to have on the show. And of course, Marty, when they're just, I'm a space geek and so forth. And to be around these gentlemen and hear what they did
Mhm.
uh, firsthand is in itself something else. But then for them to become friends and so forth through the museum is even more special.
Mhm.
And that's what we do, Kirsten, on this show is promote the Apollo era and the space shuttle era, both of which have done something that no other country on Earth have done. One, walk on the moon, and two, create a permanent outpost orbiting the Earth in the space station. And of course, that's going towards the end. But so I thought I'd hit a couple key points here with you. What did you and Tom, are your videographer, how was your impression of the American Space Museum?
It's interesting because I think you, if you walk through, you probably miss a lot of things, right? You pointed out some things to us, like the glove with the built-in light
Right, that
and things like
John
that.
Glenn used to
hmm
see inside the
So
capsule.
it's like you have a lot of treasures, and I think it's nice to walk through here with someone who knows what to look for, right? Because else you might miss things.
Well, that's why we've got excellent docents there.
hmm
And Barry Smith's here today. Got a group of about 10 people around here. Um, your videographer, Tom, who didn't want to be on the show, that's okay. He said to me, he said, you see the outside of this building and you can't imagine, it's unbelievable what's inside of it.
hmm
It doesn't look like
hmm
this stuff should be in here.
hmm
And you agree with that. That's kind of,
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to just go past it, right? And just miss it. Like, I guess people come to the coast for the Kennedy Space Center because that's well known, right?
uh-huh.
But this you have to know about to find it.
It does. We are a hidden gem,
hmm
one of these cottage type of
hmm
museums. But again, that's why first time I saw it, I thought I'd be involved with it
hmm
and moved down here in my retirement. And it's a blessing. The passion of everybody,
hmm
Kirsten, is just, you can't contain it.
Mhm.
You know, when Marty and Gary were talking, I didn't hear much of that, but I'm sure they, get pretty worked up about what
And,
they did.
and Gary just showed me the overboot which the astronauts put on their shoes when they were
Yes,
walking on
uh-huh.
the moon, so not to bring the dust back in the capsule again. And he said like 11 pairs of them are still on the moon, and this is one part of the one pair that's came back to Earth, and you have that here, right?
That's Gene Cernan's, yes,
Yeah.
on Apollo 17. Yep, and they should have brought Neil's back that we have a replica of there. Well, everybody, hope that you're been glued to your TV set with some great space news we're going to cover here in a minute. But I wanted to say hi to other people chiming in. Julie Clay, she lives here on the coast. Hi, Julie. Dean Babcock lives up in Illinois. He's a daily watcher.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, Mitch Rothman for our NASA Manned Space on Facebook's going to the dentist for a root canal. And I bet you'd rather be doing anything but that, Mitch. So God bless you on that. Hope it works out well. Gary Gerald's a farmer up in Georgia.
Hmm.
Tom Celentano says good afternoon. He's up in Connecticut. Doug Forrest is in Los Angeles, 3 hours into the future, or into the past, I mean, back there. Hey, Doug. Bert Dick, hey, buddy. Great to see you. He's a frequent contributor once a month here. He's with the
Hmm.
National Space Society.
Ah.
Good, another group of people you could interview. And Tom Usiak's in Pennsylvania. And Steve Jokums. I got a package from you and haven't opened it, Steve. I'm going to wait till I feel my day is more restful, as we are really busy with our Shuttle Fest uh, right now, and a lot of good things going on. We do an outreach conference called Shuttle Fest,
Hmm.
have 4 astronauts coming to it. 125 people are going to just, share the shuttle era is what we do. Uh, so, Kristen, let's see. And also Carlton Bailey says hello there. He says hallo and guten Tag,
Ah,
Kirsten.
fluent in German.
Yeah, he thinks, Carlton thinks he's German. Uh, but I guess he is. I don't know. So great to hear from you, Carlton. There's the gang in here. Uh, what did these gentlemen say that surprised you?
Well, it's first of all, it's great to talk to people who were actually involved, right? Like Marty, who worked on the lunar module, which was never supposed to be used in the way that it was actually as a lifeboat for the
Mm-hmm.
crew, right? And him talking about it was planned for one day and two people and not for a couple of days and three people, like that's like, but also what was interesting, I mean, you watch the movie and it's like very intense. And of course, I mean, it must have been like horrific for everyone involved at that time because like it was, it was a close call.
It
Can we
was
bring them back?
1970.
But both Marty and Gary said like we were confident it's gonna work out, and I was surprised by that because like I mean that was a close call, right?
Oh,
And
no, very close
very
call.
much tension, but they worked on it and they had confidence in things working out. That was interesting to hear. And also, Gary talked about how something happened to this tank before, and like I had never heard about the backstory that there was an, I think I can't
Got
get it straight.
dropped a
Apollo
few
10,
inches. Yeah.
right? There was something on Apollo 10, and then it was fixed, but then they got back the fixed part of it, but it never had been through an X-ray, so it was put in again, and they didn't know that they were putting that part back in again. So like, and it just shows you with space flight how the tiniest thing going wrong can lead up to other things, right? And a third thing that I learned is that both of them said like they were lucky that the thing went wrong at that exact moment, not prior to that and not after that, because then they would have had no chance to actually go on and fix it if they had used all of their supplies and stuff. So that's an interesting thing that they were, with all of the horrible thing happened, they were lucky that it happened at that point because that gave the whole team the chance to actually bring them back.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. Yes, those are some seminal points, and for those gentlemen to bring it out that were there, and very good. Kristen is not a space geek, or your knowledge of it's not there. She was a little worried to come on here as an expert, but no, you're a journalist, and what an observation, young lady. Very good for you to
Well,
do that. Uh, Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I should explain. Like we have like our network has foreign correspondence bureaus all over the world, and we are based in DC, and we are covering mainly politics. That's our daily business. That's what we're here for. And then we all like to do all kinds of other stories left and right of the road. And I really enjoy doing space topics. And I've been here actually. We came down, Tom and I, for the first launch attempt of Artemis
In August 2022,
2022, right?
22,
Yes.
yeah.
And that was exciting because, I mean, it didn't launch, but it was like they brought down all the astronauts. So they had all the astronauts we could talk to and all the expert. And there were also a German astronaut being there. And people from ESA, because it's the Europeans are involved in that with the service module, right? So it's a big thing.
Right, the service
NASA
module is a big ESA.
cooperating. Yes, and it's like the first mission where they work together, right? It's not just NASA, but together with the Europeans. And the German play a big role. So that was very exciting. And then for the third attempt, which actually launched, we were planning to come back. We had already our flights booked, Tom and I. And then Donald Trump said, I'm going to make a very big announcement in Florida, which obviously was launching his campaign to run again. And then my boss said, Kerstin, you have got plane tickets to Orlando. Why don't you go to Mar-a-Lago instead of going to Cape Canaveral? And then we covered politics and
Instead of
we
that
had
middle of
to
the
work-
night launch in
we
November.
had to work till late at night because things didn't work out, and we had to file the package during the night. And then we had no time to drive back up here. And we heard the launch, but we didn't see it. And it's still hurting so much. I really would have loved to see that. And I was
Donald
close,
Trump,
but I missed it.
you lost Kirsten's vote there, okay?
I'm
She
not
had
allowed
one.
to vote.
I know you're
but
not allowed to vote. Well, I'm glad to hear that. No, I'm glad nobody took you to a voting booth and said, "Hey, it's okay." No, we politics, sex and religion are taboos here at a nonprofit and in the world we live in because you can't. We don't need those arguments or people talking about that stuff.
But I'm hoping to come back for Artemis 2 launch. I hope that I'm not missing.
Yes, we're
Would
hoping
love
there
to
is an
see that.
Artemis 2 launch
Yes,
so
let's hope
that you
so.
can come back for there. You're fascinating. What little of getting to know you as a fellow journalist, I told you. We want to talk a little bit about some current events news here in just a moment. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Kerstin. Where'd you grow up and how'd you get into the news business?
I grew up in the southwest of Germany, where a lot of the U.S. air bases are, like Spangdahlem. That's close to where I grew up. So actually, at one point, my parents rented out part of our house to Spangdahlem personnel.
So they were military?
Yes, well, it's civilian with an American civilian working for the military
Uh-huh.
at Spangdahlem Air Base. And it's a rural area. Like my grandfather was a wine grower, so I grew up in the vineyards of the Moselle River. Maybe people know that from traveling there.
There's a lot of wine drinkers out
There's-
there. What
Oh,
kind of
wonderful.
wine is it?
Well,
The
Riesling
Moselle?
mainly. Moselle River, and Riesling is the main.
Oh, so Riesling
Grape
out
they have
there.
there,
People that
yes.
drink that would
Mhm.
be
That's
all right.
and
Pretty good stuff, huh?
yeah, it is.
Okay.
And I don't know. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be in journalism, so I started to work for the local newspaper and wrote for the local newspaper in my tiny
Oh,
village there. So I started there, and then I did radio and TV, and now I'm working for ARD already for 20 years, sort of, yeah, and doing mainly news.
since a
and-
teenager, obviously. Wow, that's good.
Yeah, not quite.
Well, that's good. Well, we love people's backgrounds because
Yeah.
it influences you where you do. I got into journalism myself by writing astronomy,
Mhm.
what's in the sky columns in high school,
Mhm.
and it, ended up doing that in the newspaper and just sort of it gets in your blood, because I liked that every day was different.
Mhm.
Though every day was the same, you were going to go take pictures, talk to people,
Mhm.
file it, write it, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you never knew what it was going to be.
Oh, you learn so much. I mean,
Yes, and that's the other
also on
thing.
politics, but that's not all we're doing. I did a documentary on the fight over water in the US like a couple of years ago. And then we did a story on sled dog races, a race in Minnesota. And everywhere you go, you learn something. And also you meet wonderful people and you get to have a look behind
Yeah.
the scene and get to places you normally don't get to. So that's really wonderful. And sometimes when I'm traveling with my family through the US, we try to see as much as possible. Sometimes I go and meet people again who I interviewed for one of my reports I did, and then I meet up with them again. Like it was for the water documentary, I was in the Panhandle, Apalachicola in Florida.
Yes. Okay.
And we filmed with a oyster fisher who couldn't harvest any oysters anymore. And just this winter, when we were there in that area for vacations, we met up with them again, and it was nice.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is nice, and you're very Americanized, obviously.
Am I?
Well, I don't. You've been here a long time. I mean,
Oh.
you spend a lot of time here, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Well, I would say, what way are you Americanized or not? I was going to say, what do you miss about Germany? And the culture of Germany, not your favorite hamburger joint, or
No,
I guess Frankfurter joint would be the more.
well, the thing is, me as a correspondent, I'm just here for a couple of years. For me, my assignment is going to be 5.5 years in total. I've been here for 4 years now. So I'm not really missing that much because I'm really enjoying my time here and knowing that I'm going to go back eventually. But of course, family is far away, right? My parents, my sister, their kids. But I'm more like it's a bit more than a year until I have to go back home, and I'm starting to think of things I'm going to miss about the US.
Okay.
That's what occupies my mind more, because then it's going to
Like
probably
what?
go back.
What's one thing you think of?
Well, first of all, the weather. Like, I'm based in DC, and the skies are always blue in DC, almost always. And where I go back to in Germany, Hamburg, it's all mostly gray and rainy.
Uh-huh.
And then also, you Americans are so friendly. Like, everywhere you go, people are always friendly.
Oh, that's nice to
And
hear.
yeah, it really is. Like, you can talk to each and every one. And people, like, they start like, what are you doing here? What brought you here? What are you up for? Like, you always have a nice chat. If you approach someone in Germany, just chatting to them, it's not like the culture is different. So they would think, why is he approaching me now? What does he want from me? They are thinking like, why? Because they are not used to people just coming up and chatting. And also, if you have any issues, like, you have a great service culture here, like people are always trying to help you as a customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in Germany, if you call a hotline, it's more like you are bothering them. So that's really something Germany could apply from learning it from the US. Yeah.
Those are great points. Thank you so much, really. And, we'd like for you to stay in touch with us with things. And when you get back to Germany, we have a friend at ESA, Alex Carl. Alex is at Eurocom that talks to the space station.
Oh.
And he's been on our show many times. He was here when Christopher Eddy landed in the Dragon. And I'm Alex Carl, Karl. And we'd hook you up with him for an interview one day there.
Yeah.
Alex might even be watching, Marty. He was watching the other day on here. A lot of people. Yeah, go ahead. Marty's got our USIAC family microphone there.
Dean Babcock is asking, says, Ms. Klein, what other spaceflight stories have you covered?
Oh, not that many. The thing is, it's like really, it's kind of my hobby within my profession. So I need to find the time, and I need to find the okay from my boss to go and cover it. So we've done the Artemis program, which is interesting for a German audience because ESA is involved in that. And we are doing things like not coming down here, but just covering things from our headquarters in DC, with footage that we get through NASA or through the Reuters or AP or others. So we do that a lot. We are certainly watching, I'm sure you want to talk about that, right? We're certainly going to watch the return of the astronauts who got stuck on the space station. That's something.
Yes.
And then there is coming up in March, actually, there is a SpaceX flight where the first German woman will travel the Earth orbit.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't know that, there has never before been a German woman in space. And she's supposed to fly on a FREM2 is the name of the mission, SpaceX mission. They fly over the.
Oh, I know that. I
Yeah.
had dinner with her, in fact.
Really?
Yes. They were here in town, and we went to Zarella's, and
Yeah.
John Zarella, that owns this restaurant, wanted me there. And yes, they're doing a Crew Dragon, privately paid for
Yeah,
by
exactly.
an Asian gentleman, and they're going around the North Pole.
Hmm.
Uh,
And the South Pole,
and
both
in the
poles.
South Pole, and no spacecraft has done that. Okay.
And she's going to be the first German
Yes.
in space now.
Yeah, I
In
forgot.
2020.
Was she the one that there was one that flew around the poles in a jet with the gentleman who
Mm,
died in the submarine that was at the
Might be, maybe.
imploded in there.
We were
But
trying to
yeah.
get in touch with her.
oh,
but
very
she's-
exciting
she's
people,
very,
stuff
she's
like
very
that. Yeah,
busy.
there was
She
two
said she
women
didn't-
there, and
Yeah.
it's called Fem too, just like she says.
Fran, yeah.
Well, I got your email. We can exchange some stuff on that.
Yeah.
We're talking here with Kerstin Klein. As you see, she's a German radio TV. Do you do radio or just
Yeah,
TV?
mainly TV, but I do radio. Like the Apollo 13 story is also going to be on radio. Yeah.
All right, Marty. I'm a big radio nut. We'll try to catch that there. Of course, in today's world, you can download or listen to all this stuff. Steve Jokums is in great state of Illinois. He's been to 6 trips to Germany
Ah,
while
wonderful.
working for Underwriters Lab. Dave Stange's been to Hamburg. Carlton Bailey's caught a buzz on Riesling wine and wonders why it's not available in Florida in there. So, yeah, a lot of people have had the opportunity. Of course, it's a great ally of our American forces and very popular destination. And Kirsten, we have lots of German tourists in our museum. I'd say it's the #1 country, even more than Canada. That we had the tourist industry does a great job of promoting us. We had 18 travel agents from Germany in
Oh.
the museum just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, the Space Coast Office of Tourism is good at bringing influencers into the major or small niches, here like us. So I've got a lot of German people in here. So thank you for sharing about the American Space Museum when you talk to people about it. And you got a question about journalism or not so much politics, but we appreciate that. Marty will pass it on. A couple of things in the news today and just things that we do here on a daily basis, which Kirsten's a little amazed like everybody else that Marty and I do this every day. Well, some days very well, some days, well, we got it done. But no, at this stage, we have such a following of great friends that we call family that it's like talking to them every day. And see, you're lucky to be in this age because you can talk to your sister or your parents right on your phone anytime you want.
Actually, I was a student in the US in 1999, 2000, at the turn of the century. And at that time, I mean, mobile phones existed, the internet existed, but it was like sending emails. And when I wanted to call my parents or my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, I had to calling, those phone cards where you put in a number.
Oh yeah, 13 numbers. Yeah.
That was a totally different time.
Yeah. MCI. I remember that, having an MCI card.
That was a totally different experience from now. Like when we moved here, my kids didn't like it, of course, right? But they could talk to their grandparents and to their friends over video telephone, like one way or the other, right? They could see each other. We could show the grandparents around the house on our mobile phone, right? They weren't there, but they could see how we live. So like it's a totally different experience. Yeah.
Boy, you brought back. I had that 13 numbers memorized because
Really?
it was a business card, and I called into the office twice a day to get my sales calls. And my gosh, that takes me way back.
Well,
Have you covered any stories about the Starlink constellation now 7,000 and growing?
No, not so much. No.
Okay. Well, I'd say Germany has some. They're basically cell towers in the sky. All right. So in places of in America like Appalachian, maybe mountainous areas there really need them. Well, let's talk a little space news here. This is the Athena as it was making its landing on the moon at 12:30 today. Here we're 3.5 hours later, and I couldn't find anything update on there. The news story. Now, this is a private lander by Intuitive Machines landing on the south pole of the moon. There it is in its powered descent, and the engine was firing. And right when they were supposed to have touchdown, they got some garbled transmission, and a news feed said that they even had data that said the spacecraft was underneath the moon. Went to negative things, which tells me, Marty, it crashed. Why wouldn't you create a picture within an hour just to tell the world that you made it again? So the first time they did this, it tipped over.
Yeah, we covered that. I did cover that, but from DC, like with the footage.
Okay.
Yeah, but then the second, no one was interested anymore.
They weren't?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I got the
Well, we're very interested because a lunar data center's on this, just like the first one, from our friend Nicole Stott's husband, Chris. The company's called Lone Star. It's in St. Petersburg, Florida. Here's a story that Brooke Edwards did. She has Nicole in there talking about it's about Lone Star going to the moon, taking Earth's data to the moon. In other words, you can email your wedding pictures to the moon. So in case they got wiped out in Germany or wherever
They're
you're
still on
storing
the
them,
moon.
they're on the moon, and you could retrieve them back, see, from the data center. That's a consideration in floods and stuff like that, maybe. A safe place that wouldn't be affected by a catastrophe on the moon. And here's what it looked like. Thank you, Connie McDaniel, for the picture here. She's probably wondering where the Riesling is, too, in the county here. But it has a very unique thing on it, folks. That's the black thing in the middle is this hard drive, so to speak. That's a server. It communicates back and forth that Chris Stott of his Lone Star put together. But the close-up of it there throws a shadow on the right-hand side. It's designed, that's the shadow of Apollo 16 moonwalker Charlie Duke. And when it sets, the shadow on the other side is Nicole Stott's profile. And they're best of friends. Nicole was befriended by him years ago. They do all kinds of things together. Charlie Duke, the youngest person to left to walk on the moon. I don't have anything else on that there. So anybody got me a press release on that? Marty, tell me what our friends are saying there.
Dave Stange and Michael Bruno both said it tipped over. Well, they think it tipped over.
All right. Carlton says there's a presser at 4, which is right now going on. And Bert Dicht, our wonderful National Space Society manager, says he's been to Berlin, Dusseldorf, Munich, Regensburg, Frankfurt, and visited one of the best museums, the Technique Museum. You know the Technique?
Yeah, but I haven't been there.
Oh, okay.
It's like you're not really traveling your own country, right? I mean, I've almost seen all 50 states, but no, I've never been there.
Well, it's like the people in this city of Titusville that have driven by our museum
And I've never been in there.
1,000 times in their lifetime, and they've never pulled in. And when they do, they say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is here."
Because you think you have all the time in the world, right? If you have an end date to your stay, you say, okay, I have to leave the United States again in 26, so this is what I want to do, bam, bam, bam. And if you're in your own country, you think like, okay, I've got all my life. So you don't do
That's
it,
right. Yeah.
But maybe that's something I can take back home. You know, when I go back to Germany, I can say like, what do I want to see in Europe? And then I do my own bucket list for Europe.
So you'll hit the Technique Museum there.
I will.
Marty's got a question from Daniel 31.
Yeah, Daniel's asking Kerstin, what do you think about the recent European space companies like RFA?
Well, you got me there. I'm not an expert on European spaceflight.
Okay.
The thing is, like, there we have.
Haven't been assigned to that
No,
RFA beat yet.
We have people specializing in science topics based in headquarters in Germany. They're following all of that. I'm mainly a politics journalist doing other stories as well. So I'm kind of an all-rounder, and I really love all space topics. But I always, every time I'm doing it, I have to dig myself in and get the details correct, or maybe talk to experts. And I think I'm pretty good covering the Artemis mission because I've done a couple of things on that. But when there's a new topic coming up, I have to look into it. And everything European is going to be taken on by people in Europe, right? By our people in Hamburg. So
I think you
yeah.
found your niche. You know, you're a good political reporter, obviously, but you got your way with personalities talking to politics,
you
so
know
you're
what?
good with
It's also,
features. It's a great feature
yes, and
for
it's
you.
also good for, I mean, first of all, only doing politics, you don't learn anything about the country. You have to go out and do other stories as well, stories about the life of the people here, right? And so that's really good to to understand the country better, right? And to be a better reporter. And also it's helpful to stay healthy, because I've been covering, like, the last 2 weeks in Washington have been crazy with the French president coming, the British prime minister, and then the Ukrainian president, and then the address in Congress. So, like, we did a lot of politics neck to neck, and this just feels like a relief, leaving the
Yeah.
DC bubble and covering something else, getting your brain freshed up by
That's
talking
right.
about
Yeah, recharging your batteries
space.
with good
Yes.
people
Yes.
instead of
And
politicians
it's still
acting
called
like they're
work.
good people. Yeah, it's still called work. Well, I'm enjoying this with you. I can tell you're a good reporter out there, and I know your family will be watching this when I send you the link. So you can give them a shout out there if you want.
I will. Hi. And also, you know, we've been reading, like, there are all kinds of great kids picture books, right, about space. So we've been reading that a lot to the kids, and they are really into space topics. And when we first came here, as I said, they didn't like the US that much because they were missing their friends. So, like, one of the first trips we did, we took them down to Florida, and we went with them to the Kennedy Space Center.
How old,
They
your
absolutely loved
children?
it. My children, and they
How
absolutely
old
loved
are
it.
they? What's their names?
They are 12 and 14 now,
Oh,
and they were younger then. It was in
name. So say
no.
hi. Oh, okay. All right.
I don't
That's
know. If
fine.
I don't know if they want that.
I respect that.
yeah.
I understand.
And actually, we took them there because we knew they would enjoy it. But the interesting thing is, I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting the Kennedy Space Center to be that good and interesting for adults as well. So that was, and also education, right? We didn't know about this place, so we missed that. We
That's
would
an
come
interesting
next time.
observation, Marty, because we think Kennedy Space Center is more for adults than children.
No, we all enjoyed it.
Yeah, they're I mean, they've made it very enjoyable for children with all the interactive things and the gateway that's got the big rocket over it and stuff like that. Well, we're enjoying this conversation with Kerstin Klein. I'm going to go through a couple other events in the news that have been going on. The what is it? The blue ghost. This is the shadow of another unmanned spacecraft that successfully landed on the moon earlier this week. And it's actually drilling into the moon's soil. Haven't heard much news about that. But we're going to update you on all this Friday when I have a chance to. I was going to look more into it today, but then I knew that ARD TV was coming in the building, and I'm glad that Kerstin's taken some time to stay curious with our wonderful family out there. And also in the news this week is in 1969, this mission, Apollo 10, was launched on May 3rd, and this was the Earth test for the lunar module that Marty talked about, that they were confident that they could go to the moon, and that it was even better than they thought it was. But they did all that in Earth orbit. And then, like you said, it saved the life of the Apollo 13 astronauts and wasn't intended to be a lifeboat. But that's, of course, Jim McDivitt on the left. He passed away at age 92 last year. And in the middle is David Scott. He walked on the moon on Apollo 15 as the commander, and he's 92 years old. And Rusty Schweikert's the other astronaut, and he turns 90 today.
Oh,
happy birthday,
happy
Rusty,
birthday.
who's been in our museum doing autographs with Jack Lausman about a year ago. So we remember the historical things of Apollo always. And then of course in the news today, I put that up there because we're bringing them back in about a week, maybe 10 days. I forget the exact scenario there. The launch is the 12th, and then they'll stay up there, come back on not the one that's launched, but Crew 9. You know, you say something that we don't consider that.
But they got stuck there?
Yeah.
How do you see it?
They were test pilots. They did get stuck there, but they're not like uncomfortably stuck.
Oh,
It's not like they don't want to be there,
Yep.
stuck.
Mhm.
It's
They're not stranded.
it's what they it's it was unplanned, but then again, I think Sunny uh, is very happy to be up there more time.
Mhm.
She's happily married to a Texas Ranger, and they have dogs. They don't have children. Butch, on the other hand, has a wife and two teenage daughters here, so he might not have wanted to sign up for 8 months. Instead, he wanted the 8 days. But it's also a testament to being safe and having a backup plan.
Yeah.
All right.
But we're certainly gonna cover that. We covered the story in the first place when they went up and couldn't get back, and it has also this component with looking at the industry, right? Because you have SpaceX now flying, and obviously they want to be a competitor, and not being successful like that. That's something that is interesting for us, right? Is NASA
Because
going to have a second company to compete with the one company they're relying
SpaceX
on?
is saving the Boeing astronauts.
Yeah.
Boeing was the company that put up the Starliner. And the people that Marty knows, all his career, you talk about the detail that you learned about how the checks and balances work. A lot of people don't think Boeing did the right thing by launching because they knew they had a problem with with a thruster on the pad, and yet they launched. So we're not judging them. That's my own personal opinion and not the museum's. But uh, so that's uh, they're safe. They were always safe as long as they were on the International Space Station. Had they not been able to go to the International Space Station, then we would have played out some bigger drama there, like Apollo 13, maybe. So hopefully they'll talk about that. You're here for this big Artemis press conference tomorrow out to Space Center. What time's that?
Well, it's not a press conference. It's like the chance for us to get a look inside behind
a tour.
A tour. And prior to Artemis 1, there was a tour in Houston. I didn't have a chance to go there because I was doing something else, but a colleague of mine went with a camera team. And when I'm doing reporting now, I still sometimes go back to the material he filmed there, because you have the control rooms, and you have the pool where they practice. You're like, those are pictures we can use over and over again. So whenever I'm covering Artemis 2 now, I can only use the material that NASA puts out on their webpage, and giving us the chance to go behind the scenes and film our own material is something we can profit in the months to come. And we are also going to be able to talk to one person from ESA and one person from Airbus, I guess, so we get some sound bites as well. And that's going to be very helpful, and I hope we can do some coverage now and then some coverage later.
You're in video. You're and your videographer Tom are going to be busy shooting that B-roll and everything, and he was very nice to meet here today. We celebrate the shuttle era every month. We talk about the number of shuttles that were launched, and here's those beautiful patches. We talk about the artwork, all kinds of things. And we know the shuttle's very popular, particularly in Germany. Was two German missions that were very important on there. And this is an astronaut, Tom Jones, who I was communicating with folks last night and this morning, because he wanted to try to crash our Shuttle Fest in a month, Marty. And but he decided he'd let the Hubble telescope guys have their love. And he promised that he wants to come for our Shuttle Fest in 2026. He wrote these 3 books that are quite good. Tom Jones, if you want him, will be at Shuttle Fest 2026. I can almost guarantee it. And Marty is working on Jose Hernandez. And we also got a maybe from Steve Smith, EVA Hubble astronaut. This guy did some spacewalks too. And we go out to the NASA Space Center and see them at the encounter, where they open to the public. Twice a day you can meet an astronaut, have your picture made with him for free out there, the cost of the ticket. And because I wanted to make sure you saw a rocket launch here.
Yeah, you have to explain that. Like, I have never seen actually a rocket launch yet.
Oh man, I wish you could do this. This is Carlton Bailey who's watching. he took this shot from his
That's
front yard,
beautiful.
and we call it a streak shot. You leave the camera lens open, so it's like finger painting across the sky.
That's a beautiful picture.
And it is a beautiful picture. But now we go, oh another launch. Oh, my dog's gonna be barking. We had 91 launches last year.
That's
Every
incredible.
3 days. It's
Yeah.
every 4 days. It's really, and the pace is already 20 this year, Marty. 20 some. So so I enjoyed talking with you, and thank you for doing this at the
Thank
last
you so much for
minute.
having us, and especially having us here for our interviews and for our reporting.
You're
Thank
welcome
you.
anytime. You let ARD know that they have a home away from home here. And because it's been clear out and the moon's out, go out and get you some moonshine. Okay, it's a kind of moonshine you can't get too much of. Mercury is very low in the west, and Venus is above it. Now, Venus was high up, and it's so bright. It's the brightest star in the sky. Only the sun and the moon is brighter. And it's so bright, you think it's just like that clouds is reflecting like a mirror off of it. But it's actually a very thin crescent, I'll show you. But Mercury and Venus are going to be gone in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Okay.
The moon is up by the planet Jupiter tonight. So you go out and see the moon, and Jupiter is to the right of it, I believe, tonight. And if you look through a telescope, Venus would look like this on the left.
Oh, wow.
It's less than 10% of it. It's a thin crescent, and yet it's so bright. That little bit of sliver is creating all that
It's
light
fascinating.
because it's between the Earth and the sun. And that was the moon in comparison by an astronomer a while back there. So thank you so much for, like I said, taking your time here. Marty, we want to thank Daniel31, Michael Bruno, Carlton Bailey, Tommy UCX, Steve Jokums, Doug Forrest, Bert Dicht, Tom Celentano, Gary Gerald, Mitch Rothman, Dean Babcock, Julie Clay, and David Stengy for watching. And I'll bet that Anita Truex is maybe watching here, our office manager, Connie McDaniel, our awesome volunteer, and hi to Sharon Rodriguez out there at the Sand Space Center and all that she does out there. So anything to button up over there, Marty?
Nope, we're good.
All right. Thank you so much, Kerstin.
Thank you for having me.
Very nice meeting you, and I hope that we can stay in touch.
Let's do that.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Until tomorrow, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you in our museum like Kerstin here to bridge the space between us.